Hi, my name is Derek Antonio Serra. In the past 5 years, together with my wife Akona, we've traveled to 16 countries. I've been to about 47 countries in total, and we've been writing the Traveller Nomads blog during this time. We're also involved in the travel and tourism industry professionally. I run two businesses in Cape Town that are involved in that, and my wife works for a big international travel organization. So I've decided to start blogging about our trips to help other travelers, and I think I offer a very honest and straightforward approach to travel. I'm looking for value for money. We tend to travel on a budget of $50 to $100 a night, and we eat at reasonably priced restaurants. So I hope you enjoy my blog. We decided to come to Zanzibar because we'd always thought, well, it's a very exotic destination. We live in Cape Town in South Africa, and so it's relatively close, a 3.5-hour flight from Johannesburg. And so we decided, okay, now's a good time to visit Zanzibar. July is the start of peak season, so there was quite a lot going on, quite good weather. We've traveled to Thailand, we've been to Indonesia, the Maldives, further afield, the Philippines, and it'd be interesting to see the comparison between the costs of coming to Zanzibar, which for a South African is obviously cheaper in terms of the flight, if you fly with FlySafair, as compared to flying to Thailand or to Indonesia or any of these other more distant destinations. We thought that Zanzibar would be a relatively affordable destination, because obviously we pay in rands, and we thought staying in Africa would be a good choice for us. Once we'd bought the tickets and I started really looking into it and looking at affordability of accommodation, I quickly realized that to get accommodation on par with what we would normally book in, say, Thailand, which would be a beachfront accommodation at a resort. In Thailand, we're paying $40, $50, maybe $60 a night, including breakfast, to be right on the beach. And in Zanzibar, to be right on the beach, you're looking more like $80 to $100 a night. So a bit more expensive. And obviously, if you're staying for 25 days as we are, you'll quickly enough realize that mounts up in terms of your cost. Then the next thing, of course, is eating, and that's quite interesting because food in Zanzibar has two extremes. You're either going to eat local food, which most tourists are not going to try and eat. So that's really street food, not like in Thailand where we call it street food, but it's on a certain level of cleanliness, and you know the meat's relatively fresh and that type of thing. Here, when you eat on the street, then you're looking at a lot of flies, and one can't be sure where the meat comes from. So the average tourist is not going to eat a $1 meal on the street. Then you have local restaurants where local people go and sit down and eat, and you're looking at paying probably $3 or $4 a plate. So about 10,000 shillings, 8,000 shillings for a chicken curry or vegetable curry or something in that line. And there, of course, it will be a mixed bag. Certain places are quite good, and other places really won't come up to scratch for an average tourist. Then you get more sort of a local restaurant geared towards tourists. So it's locally owned, but it's marketing itself more towards the tourist spend. There you're looking at spending between sort of 17 and 20,000 shillings, so double what you'd pay in a very typically local restaurant. This one still looks like the other local restaurant. It's just that they've written their menus in English, and you can see they're more geared towards dealing with tourists. But the place itself might not necessarily have any other facilities compared to what local people would expect. So we've eaten at some of those, and some of there again, some are good, some not so good. And then there's a dramatic jump to about double the price of what you'd pay in one of these local restaurants, and then you have a typical tourist restaurant run by, probably owned by a foreigner, an expat in Zanzibar. Lots of they're French, Italian, Polish, Russian, Bulgarian owners, and there the pricing is very similar to what you'd pay in Europe for a similar plate. So if you wanted pasta or whatever, you could easily pay 30,000, 35,000 shillings for a pasta. And of course, at that price in Zanzibar, you're thinking, well, I'm getting a gourmet meal here. Unfortunately, you'd be disappointed, because in most cases that's not at all what you're getting. You're getting pretty much a similar version of a spaghetti that you get at a local restaurant, just double the price. So your options are pretty slim. Even if you'd like to eat fruit, there are in Stone Town, there are many markets, and obviously we're in Paje at the moment. In Paje there are lots of guys and women selling fruit along the side of the road, sort of in the more sort of industrial area here. But as a foreigner, it's not much fun buying from them, because they will ask a crazy sort of price for bananas or a mango or whatever, 5, 6, 7 times the normal price a local would pay. So it becomes quite exhausting just trying to buy something as simple as some bananas and a mango to add to your diet. Because when you're traveling long term, one of the things you want to do is eat healthily, and the food that gets offered in restaurants geared towards tourists is very often lacking in any kind of nutritional value. So you don't get many dishes with vegetables. There is obviously some fruit, but then it would be at a premium. So it's quite an exhausting thing. If you're eating at a hotel, then obviously they even go further, because they base their costing in dollars. So it's quite common to have pricing of $12, $15, $18, $20 US for a plate of curry. In South Africa, where we come from, $20 for a plate of curry is about 3 times, 4 times what you'd expect to pay in a very good Indian restaurant, very authentic. So it's proving to be quite a challenge, but we're pretty experienced travelers, so we find ways to get around these problems, more with a sort of balanced approach. So certain days you'll go to a more expensive place and eat there. Another day you'd pick up a baguette and some cheese from a supermarket, which often requires a bit of a walk because they're not in the tourist areas. And you'd have that as a lunch and then have a more elaborate supper. But if you want to try and travel on a budget which doesn't exceed what you'd expect to pay, generally speaking, when traveling to an island destination, then you've got to work quite carefully here in Zanzibar. So I'm going to do a bit of a walkabout at the resort that we're staying at in Paje at the moment. It's called Kanazi Upepo Beach Resort, and it's right on the beach here in Paje. You're going to take a walk down from where we're staying down onto the beach. As you can see, it's probably about 10-15 meters walk from our room to the beach. Paje Beach is quite famous for kite surfing, and we've got some good wind up today, so it's pretty obvious once you get onto the beach that kite surfing is what's going on here. Just have a look at that. There must be 50, 60 guys out there, more go up the beach. It's a very long beach, this Paje. outside seating area, which we also have breakfast in, and then back through here to the actual resort itself. The majority of the accommodation here are these wooden beach bungalows. And we've got a more modern section on this side, so you can see that's reception. We have our friendly man on reception here. Hi. And then we have a resort dog. Yeah, wants to play now. Now's not a good time to play dog. And then we're located in this building. Which is quite nice actually. It's more like a suite. Got nice views. You see there's Akona busy putting on her makeup. I'm just going to show you inside. Yeah, this is quite a nice place. A little bit untidy because we're working here, but as you can see, it's quite substantial compared to the beach bungalows outside, which are which are wooden and more an older style of building. And then here you've got your quite a nice shower, toilet, etc. So yeah, quite nice. Little fridge loaded up with our drinks is right over there. We're paying about $80 a night here. We booked probably 2 months in advance, and that's proven to be a pretty good rate, because at the moment for the weeks ahead they're charging double that rate for this room, and in fact for the smaller bungalows as well. Get a breakfast in the morning. You can choose from a number of items: pancakes, crepes, smoothie bowl. They've got unusually some oats, which is a popular first option for Akona, my wife. I'm going to take a quick walk through the resort and out into the little area that we use to shop in and go to restaurants, etc. So you've got a sort of quite large garden. They have horses here. Nice horses, and these horses you can hire to go and ride in the water on the beach or whatever with them. I think it's normally about $60 or half an hour, so quite pricey. Now fortunately they have a generator here, because you get power cuts every day, normally at night, so no problem here with losing electricity, which is quite nice. So we're just going to head out. Jambo. We're just going to head out into the roads here of Paje. One thing you'll notice when you're in Zanzibar is the poor state of the roads. So they'll have a couple of tar roads running from the main towns to one town to the other. Those are in a varying state of repair or disrepair. The road from Stone Town to Paje, for instance, terrible. They're busy working on it for quite a long time, but it wasn't a pleasant drive. It took about 2.5 hours with our driver, who was driving very carefully. And then you'll see there's loads of these curio shops that line the streets through the tourist area of Paje. And of course people will constantly be trying to get you to buy stuff from them. Yeah, so the roads that are in the actual tourist area are, as you can see, very poor, and haven't been repaired for decades from what I've heard from locals. So we're not quite sure where that infrastructure tax of $4 a person goes to, but definitely not on maintaining the infrastructure in the tourist areas. you see this lined with these little tourist shops. A lot of paintings on sale, and then of course typical t-shirts, hats. Never pleasant to buy from them, as inevitably there'll be a lengthy haggling, ridiculous prices of the first price. We looked at a sun hat here for my wife and they wanted $35 US. I mean, that hat we buy for $3 or $4 in Thailand. I was angry when we never bought it from him. So just take you down to one of the little highlights here in the area. Some Maasai guys walking in front of us. They've come from the mainland and hope to make money from tourism here, posing for photos, sell little trinkets that they make. So we have the village market, which is a 24-hour, very fancy market, obviously owned by foreigners, and it's very well stocked. I'm not going to go in because I've got footage of it already somewhere. We set on back, and we've got one of the places that we've eaten at, which is a barbecue place. Africana barbecue. I ate here twice. Quite popular for drinks, a late night spot as well. We go there normally much earlier. The Today Special, that's the same sign. It's been up for a week. And you can see it's a bit quiet now. It's not basically a bar. Pricing very reasonable, very local pricing, from 5,000 shillings upwards. Akona had the local meal for 5,000 and it wasn't bad at all. So that's one of the cheapest options actually in this area in terms of food, and it's actually right in the middle of where the tourists would come out from the beach. So that's not a bad option, but yeah, the portions are relatively small, not too much meat in your meal there. If you come back up the street, then you come to an intersection with the Bosinga restaurant. We've eaten here, very good chicken curry, was 17,000. So he's not cheap, but he knows how to cook. So also quite well recommended, I reckon. Unfortunately, he doesn't get a lot of business now because he's quite close to the most popular place, the trendiest place to eat now in Paje for tourists. Packed out every night when we've been there, and that's where we're going to head off to now, which is a 5-minute walk down the road. You can see it's a very strangely developed area. I wouldn't call these roads, they're more like tracks. And you'll have a mixture of different kinds of operations all next to each other. So here we have another couple of buildings all selling curios and paintings. As I say, very much the same. I never ever see tourists buying from them, so I don't know how they stay in business. Yeah, as I said before, it's just so exhausting trying to buy something from them because it's a long haggle, and often you wasted your time because they just won't. They get one customer a day, so they try to extract whatever out of you. So the hat's not worth $35. We all understand that, but that guy wants $35 because he didn't make any money that day. So now in the end we walk away. So this is Bento. There won't be any people here now because it's daytime, just to show you. They open at 11, so it's only 10 past 10 now. But very nice, very organized. All the shops are closed now, but very, very nice. Packed out at night. And we head back from Bosingas, which is at the intersection. We're back on that road to the resort. We've got Harrods, not Harrods of London, but Harrods of Paje. And then you see the approach road to the hotel. Pretty rough. When we were brought here by the taxi from Stone Town, he missed it because somebody has put a big pile of sand in front of the sign which says welcome to Kanazo Pepo. So we drove straight. Yeah, there's the sign hidden behind some dirt, and then if you look here, there is a sign. So we think they should write the sign on the gate because a couple of taxis got lost. So we're back at Kanazo and up the road again. Yeah, one of the problems that you find with a lot of resorts on islands, not only here but also in Thailand, is this kind of untidy entrance. Like it's your first impression, you're paying $100 or whatever it might be per night, which is not for nothing, and then you see this kind of untidy dumping ground. It's the first thing you see. You think, oh my God, what kind of a place have I paid my money to stay in? Because they just don't seem to care about like first impressions and appearances. All the junk here. So yeah, it's a bit of a thing. I mean, we've seen it also in other places. We were recently in Thailand and it was the same. I was like saying to my wife, what the hell, man? Why don't you just clean up the entrance here? But yeah, I think there's a lack of understanding of how many tourists from Western countries process things and gain an impression of a place. So this morning's a very beautiful morning here in Paje, on Paje Beach. As you can see, the tide goes out. So at this stage, the beach is nice and wide. This is our resort, Kanazi Upepo Lodge. They do kite surfing here. They had to move their operation down from the Nest, which is the sister hotel, because of a massive fire on Saturday night. We were actually in our room watching Netflix on our laptop and missed all the action, but apparently there were people running up and down the beach. It was quite a chaotic sight. Shame. So they've lost their restaurant and bar burned down, and also the couch surfing. This is the little kitten that likes to spend time with us. Hello. She slept in our room 2 nights already. So basically, we stayed here for 7 nights. This is our last morning. We'll be moving over to Matemwa Beach at 11 o'clock this morning. We have a driver that will come and fetch us. What I did before arriving in Zanzibar is I actually went onto the various Zanzibar travel groups, and I put a post up there looking for drivers in an attempt to find what rates would be, etc. And I managed to find one driver that we've been using. His name is Ahmed, We've shot a little promotional video for him as well, as part of the sort of deal we made with him to drive us around so he can promote his business a bit better. The rates for taxi drivers ranges wildly, and the approach taken by most is to try just to get as much from you as they can. It's not linked to the number of kilometers or the time or anything like logically you would expect it to be. So basically what they do is you ask about drivers and everybody says me, me, me. They don't give any prices, and then they haggle with you over private message or WhatsApp or whatever. So it's quite exhausting. My agreement with my driver is that for point to point we have a fixed rate which we settled on, which is a standard rate that most people would charge for that distance. And then when we take him for a day trip, I pay him $25, and I pay for the petrol, and I pay for his lunch. So that works out to be anything from $40 to $50 for the day, and he takes us to where we want to go, so up and down the coast, looking at various beaches or whatever the case may be. So I think it's a fair price. It's pretty standard. But yeah, some of the guys are quoting you $80, $100, you know, crazy prices. Many taxis here, and nobody knowing how to promote themselves. So the thing is, when they get one ride, they try and make as much as they can out of it, because they don't know when next they're going to get a ride. I mentioned to Ahmed that maybe Bolt or Uber would be a good idea for these guys, because at least they'd have regular work. Even though they would get less per ride, they would actually be able to make a living. Now they seem to be scratching around and struggling. Yeah, so it's a bit of an issue, and it's part of the challenge of coming to not only Zanzibar but Bali, Thailand, any of these places. To get transport, unless there's good public transport infrastructure, can be difficult. Your only other option here is the Dala Dala, which is the local little van that runs up and down. There's hundreds of them, buses and vans of all shapes and sizes. Very cheap, $1 a ride. But the trouble is, it's really intended for local people, so for a foreign tourist, it's fun to do it once, but I don't think it's a practical way to get around, especially not if you have large bags and things like that. It just won't work. So you're kind of forced to use the taxis and go through that whole rigmarole of negotiation and whatever. They don't have standard fares. Some of them, for instance, if you want to, we want to go from Paje to Matemwa, which is on the east coast, but our driver lives near Stone Town, so his rate's got to include him getting from Stone Town to Paje and back, plus then our trip. But we tried speaking to local taxi drivers here, and they wanted the same money, so I'd rather just use a guy that I know and trust. So at the end of the day, the question is, should you come to Paje? Did we enjoy Paje? We definitely enjoyed Paje. I think Paje offers the average traveler to Zanzibar really beautiful soft white sand, long beaches, easy access to food. There's some entertainment if that's what you're really after. So I definitely think it's a worthwhile place to go to. Even if it's the only place you go to. The upside is definitely greater than the downside. The downside tends to be that there's not much going on along the beach at night because it can get windy. So you've got to bear in mind that on a windy day your options are going to be quite limited from about 4 p.m. or so in Paje. But we really enjoyed Paje, and it's definitely worthwhile going there because you really have that real beach experience. You know, if you're staying on the beach in one of these beach bungalows or whatever, you're literally walking out of the bungalow onto the sand and through a couple of trees, and you're in the water. So definitely a worthwhile endeavor. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please check out travelernomads.com and subscribe.